Hi everyone. Within the framework of its Hi everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Thank you so much for being here today. My name is Ai with the School of Slow Media. Thank you for coming to Reserved for Film Lovers, hosted by UNESCO and the School of Slow Media. You could have been anywhere in the world today, but you chose to spend your Saturday evening with us talking about film and culture and Southeast Asia, and we're so excited for you to be here. Before we get started though, I do want to give another couple of minutes for other people to come in. But while we are doing that, we have people from all over the world, and I want to take just a minute to acknowledge, and in a typical situation, if we were in person, we would be able to see everybody's faces and to say hi and to see everybody in person. So with Zoom, I'd like to take just 1 minute and change for you to be so on the top right hand of your screen, you can see a little icon that says view, and you can change it from speaker to gallery. And if you change it to gallery, you'll be able to see a whole grid of people. And so I actually encourage everybody to turn on your video just so we can see everybody's faces. And once we see everybody's beautiful faces, hello, now I see all of you, to just click on the arrow and scroll through and say hi to everybody. I see a lot of people don't have their videos on, but I see your lovely pictures. But I do just want to take a moment to acknowledge everybody. Hello, thank you for being here. Hello, hello. Before we get started, I want to just tell you a little bit more about Zoom in case you are familiar or not familiar about what we will be doing today. So we will be toggling between speaker and gallery view. And for those Vietnamese only speakers, I encourage you to change your name. So on your little window, on the upper right-hand corner of your window, you can see an icon that has 3 little dots. And if you click on those 3 little dots, there's, and scroll down, it says rename. So please rename your name to have Vietnamese if you are a Vietnamese only speaker. And we will have transcriptions on the chat, so please pay attention to that. And we will be using the chat quite a lot today. So on the bottom of your screen, you'll see a chat icon. And pay attention to that because we'll be using that for question and answer. So again, welcome. And with that, I'd like to pass it to Zhang, Culture Project Officer of UNESCO, to introduce to us a little bit more about the program. Zhang, you're mute.
Oh, so hi everyone. I'm Zhang. I'm a cultural project officer working for UNESCO. And thank you all so much today for joining us, coming virtually to our event. And I'm very happy and excited to be here and become a part of Reserve for Film Lovers. So now we would like to introduce you to Michael Croft, Head of Office of UNESCO in Hanoi, who will have a few words of welcome all of you.
Dear filmmakers and film lovers,
Within the framework of its country strategy in Vietnam 2020 to 2021, UNESCO prioritizes support for the national strategy on cultural industries and the implementation of the 2005 Convention on promoting the diversity of cultural expressions. Within this orientation, UNESCO is implementing a 3-year initiative, mobilizing film professionals for regional cooperation, with a focus on Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia, made possible through the generous support of the government of Japan. In Vietnam, we call the project Emotions Project. E for the empowerment of film professionals and policymakers while enhancing national policies and regional cooperation, promoting gender equality in content and creation, and third, engagement, opening up new opportunities for Vietnamese filmmakers to connect with each other. In parallel to activities in Vietnam, the project will facilitate a network of filmmakers and professionals across Southeast Asia to encourage peer-to-peer learning and sharing. This online conference, reserved for film lovers, which is organized in partnership with the School of Slow Media, aims to create a learning space for filmmakers and professionals in Southeast Asia to learn essential skills for storytellers, supporting the development of regional collaboration in film. It includes 3 main parts: the mini workshop, The Art of Observation, the Roundtable Conversation with 5 regional filmmakers from Vietnam, the Philippines, Cambodia, and Singapore, and a scene deconstruction behind-the-scenes stories by Phan Linh, a premier filmmaker of Vietnam. Finally, I would like to thank everyone today for taking your time to attend. I also want to thank the professional team of the School of Slow Media for their effort in bringing us a very special evening to celebrate filmmaking in Southeast Asia. Knowing that many of you are also very interested in film, we invite your ideas for new cooperation with UNESCO and regional filmmakers and professionals moving forward. We hope that you have a great time enjoying the online conference reserved for film lovers. Thank you very much.
Within the framework of its country strategy in Vietnam 2020 to 2021, UNESCO prioritizes support for the national strategy on cultural industries and the implementation of the 2005 Convention on promoting the diversity of cultural expressions. The film industry represents a strategic growth sector for Vietnam with immense untapped potentials, such as a variety of associations and networks, spectacular shooting locations, youthful and talented creative professionals. As indicated in country's quadrennial periodic report to UNESCO, Vietnam amended regulations on film censorship and distribution permits in 2015, ushering in an era of more creative, contemporary, and better distributed domestic motion pictures. In 2016, the government promulgated its action program to approve the development strategy of Vietnamese cultural industries by 2020, with a vision to 2030. This strategy foresees cultural industries to contribute 3% of GDP and the cinema industry specifically to reach 150 million USD by 2020. UNESCO launches Emotions, a new 3-year project under sponsorship of Japanese funds and trusts to mobilize film professionals for regional cooperation. So why do we name our project Emotions? E stands for empowerment. The objective of this initiative is to strengthen the film industry through capacity building and empowerment of filmmakers, film professionals and policymakers, especially public film funding agencies and other major public stakeholders such as public service media, while enhancing both national policies and regional collaboration in the film sector in Asia. E refers to gender equality. The project builds the capacity of filmmakers and professionals developed in the areas of content creation and exchanges, where the principle of gender equality will be mainstreamed through the inclusion of women filmmakers and professionals in film sector. E means engagement. The project enhances regional collaboration in film areas and will open up a number of new opportunities for Vietnamese filmmakers' engagement with exchange programs in the field of film industry, contributing to build further Vietnamese cinema's reputation. and connecting E to motions, we never lose emotions. Have you ever realized that filmmakers nourish their emotions to craft their own stories? Have you ever watched a movie and especially felt sympathetic emotions toward the film characters? Film inspires us. Film motivates us. Film lifts our optimism. UNESCO will bring together filmmakers, policymakers, production companies, public service media and other stakeholders to review the needs and the future of the domestic film sector. In parallel to country-specific activities, the project will support the development of a network of filmmakers and professionals across Southeast Asia, with focus in Vietnam, Thailand, and Indonesia to vitalize the region's cinematic expressions as a whole. This project will also contribute to the implementation of the UNESCO Convention on the Protection and Promotion of the Diversity of Cultural Expressions and relevant sustainable development goals, including decent work creation, entrepreneurship, creativity and innovation, as well as to address the gender imbalance in the region's film industry and encourage the greater female representation and cooperation among women film professionals. We invite all your ideas for the cooperation between UNESCO and national partners, as well as international partners in supporting the film sector in Vietnam. For further information, please contact us at hanoi@unesco.org or find us on official UNESCO website en.unesco.org and on our Facebook page www.facebook.com/UNESCO in Vietnam. Thank you for watching.
Thank you so much, Giang. And again, UNESCO, we are really honored to be part of this program. And thank you again so much for being here with us today. And you are here for a film dinner party. And so I hope that everybody has their drink and food in hand. This is a beautiful banquet of film that you are here today. And I promise that we will have a lot of interactivity. You will have an opportunity to speak to our regional filmmakers who are coming in about 45 minutes. We will be doing a scene deconstruction and just really being able to celebrate our love for film, because everybody here is your community of filmmakers and film lovers. And with that, before we get started, I'd really like to just do a beginning activity and just to use the chat. I know we asked you this when you registered, but I'd love to hear again, what does film mean to you? So go ahead and just use the chat box and answer for us, type for us what film means to you in this moment. And I will, just so we can read. So Akira says that it's a way to learn something outside of my life. Kim Megson says, currently during lockdown, film is escapism. Mako says, it's a way to explore and discover. Chris Moore says, a dance between light and time. Kim says, it's an extension of my culture and who I am as a person. Karin says, film is how I connect with people and emotions. John Peter, a love relationship between image and sound, exploring themes, ideas, stories, and people. AJ is, oh, this is going too fast, is one of the best ways to convert a story into our mind and into a piece of art. Jazz says, film is encompassing and transcendental, a way to open our eyes to the world. There's so many beautiful things that film can mean to us. Chung says, film helps me express emotions. I feel like, Dao says, I feel like myself the most when I'm making films. I really resonate with that, Dao. I feel very connected to myself and who I am when I have a camera in my hands as well. Miko says, film is a coping mechanism through visuals and storytelling. So thank you so much, everyone. Again, you are all filmmakers and film lovers here and creatives and artists, and we are just excited to dine on film tonight. And with that, I'd like to invite you all to sit down at the dinner table, and we're gonna set our first meal of the day. And I'd like to introduce Samuel Diaz-Fernandez, our founder at the School of Slow Media.
Thank you, I. No, I'm really excited to be here with you. As I said, I'm the director and the founder of the School of Slow Media and a filmmaker myself. We asked you what film meant to you, and you answered in such beautiful ways. One of the things that film means to me is film is basically food for the soul. Film, being the seventh art, is all these little ingredients, locations, light, sound, words, bodies, space, all those things put together to make something that transports us, that allows us to travel in time and space and to make memories. So at the School of Slow Media, our purpose, our mission is to help us slow down enough to be mindful, to really notice all of those ingredients, all of those small details that we might miss when we just sit down tired and to watch something. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's so much richness, there's so much going on in movies and in cinema that we want to notice. So we're going to go ahead and start with an experience. Enough about words. We're going to start with something that we want you to be transported by. So as we like to do in our programs, I just encourage you, first of all, put on your headphones if you don't have headphones on. Be comfortable, get into a comfortable position, slow down your breathing. Ground yourself, feet on the floor. Maybe allow yourself to stop thinking and enjoy what you're about to experience.
Cinema is a language. It can say things, big abstract things. Some people are poets and have a beautiful way of saying things with words, but cinema is its own language. And so you can express a feeling and a thought that can't be conveyed any other way. It's a magical medium. It's so beautiful to think about these pictures and sounds flowing together in time and in sequence, making something that can be done only through cinema.
Hello, gorgeous.
If you listen real close, you can hear them whisper their legacy to you. Go on, lean in. Listen. You hear it?
It's so magical to go into a theater and have the lights go down. It's very quiet, and then the curtains start to open, and you go into a world. Although the frames of a film are always the same number, in the same sequence, and with the same sounds, every screening is different. There's a circle that goes from the audience to the film and back. Each person is looking and thinking and feeling and coming up with their own sense of things, and that's what cinema can do.
I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
Life is filled with abstractions, and the only way we make heads or tails of it is through intuition. Intuition is seeing the solution. It's emotion and intellect going together.
가지 마요. 그냥 안 가면 안 돼?
걱정 마시오. 난 아직 모르시오. 아무 일 없을 거요.
Intuition can be sharpened and expanded through meditation, diving into the self. There's an ocean of consciousness inside each of us. When you dive into that ocean, that consciousness, you enliven it. It grows.
Oof. I feel like I just traveled to 50 different places through some of my favorite films. I don't know how you feel. I have right behind me little Totoro. I don't know if you can all see him, if you know Totoro the film. But this is a film that reminds us of how we travel with our imagination. And all those clips that we just saw, that experience we just had, takes us to places that we remember, things that we connect with. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to throw you into breakout groups. Throw you sounds very aggressive. We're going to put you in breakout groups. You're going to be with groups of 5. They'll be strangers, but don't worry. Don't escape. Don't go anywhere. And you're going to be discussing a couple of questions based on what you just saw. And the first question is going to be, what do you remember? What images and sound that you just experienced are now in your memory that really stand out? What do you remember? So that's the first question. And the second question is going to be, why did you connect with these images? What experiences in your life, what stories, what things that you have lived through helped you connect with hundreds of different images, different memories? So what do you remember? And why did you connect with those memories, those images, that sound? So you're going to see a little window pop up. Please accept it, and you'll be taken into a breakout group. Have fun. Enjoy the next few minutes, next 12 minutes. And we'll see you in a little bit. Don't go anywhere.
And we encourage you to turn on your video.
Please, yes. See you in a little bit. What is that sound?
That's the sound from the video.
Oh.
It's a dinner party.
With what, the breakout groups manually? Oh, that'll be fun. How many people are there? 80? Well done, Ai ơi.
Thank you. I hope people enjoy the breakout group.
People usually do. Rafa Mustafa, amazing job on the video. Just amazing, 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 amazing. And Oi, thank you for your work so far. And Zhang, excellently done as well. Oh, she's not here. She's in a breakout group.
All right. We have group sharing after this, right?
Yeah. So that one, I'll welcome them back and explain the raise hand function. up. Everyone is coming back from the breakout groups while we were enjoying some great music being DJ'd by our own Rafa Fernando from the Philippines, who's behind the scenes working the tech. A big shout out to him, a big thank you. You won't see his face just yet, but he's making all this magic happen. All right, I think we have everybody back. I hope you really enjoyed getting to know each other. I know it can be a little bit anxiety-inducing or nerve-wracking to meet strangers, but there's nothing better than talking to people about cinema, about movies. So we hope you really enjoyed that. So obviously we don't have enough time to hear from everybody, from everything that was happening in all the breakout groups, but we do want to hear from a few people who can tell us a little bit about what went on in your room. So what we're going to do is we're going to ask you to use the raise hand feature. So there is a little button, the participants button, and it says raise hand. And I'm just going to basically pick whoever raises their hand first, whichever hand I see first on my screen. We'll go ahead and pick that one, and you'll get an invitation to unmute. So we really want to hear what people in your room answered, to what memories, what did you remember, why did you connect? Please keep your answer to 30 seconds or less so that we have time to listen to other people. So 1, 2, 3, go. Please let me know if you want to share what went on in your room. All right, and I'm sorry if I mess up names. Kung Hung, let's go with you first. I see you here. And our team will try to select you and...
Yeah. Xin chào.
Xin chào.
Xin chào.
Có ai đó ở đây dịch giúp em được không ạ?
Có.
Dạ. Em cảm ơn. Dạ, em xin chào tất cả mọi người. Em là Khương Hưng. Hiện tại em đang là diễn viên ở thành phố Hồ Chí Minh, Việt Nam.
Hi, my name is Kuang, and right now I am are you a student or a teacher? Diễn viên or sinh viên?
Diễn viên.
Teacher at in thành phố Hồ Chí Minh.
Thì em có một câu hỏi này em muốn hỏi, đó là khi các nhà làm phim chọn diễn viên ấy, thì những tiêu chí nào là quan trọng và tiêu chí nào là quan trọng nhất để các nhà làm phim chọn một diễn viên cho bộ phim của mình?
Oh, he's an actor, sorry. An actor, and he's just, the question that he's having is what does a director or filmmakers choose when they're looking for actors, and what's the most important criteria?
Excellent, that is a good question. Thank you. Come on. So,
I see some people actually raising their hand instead of doing the raise hand function on Zoom. So if that's easier, if you want to speak, just do this.
Yes,
on your video.
I can see everybody now. Whoa, now I can see everybody in the gallery. Go ahead and raise your hand again. Okay, I see. Team, help me pick this out. Tech comes.
I see AJ raising his hand.
All right, AJ, go ahead.
Okay, I'll keep things brief. A couple of the things that came out in terms of what we remember was film being a language. That was said by the other AJ in our room. And yeah, I also, the things that stuck out for me that I remembered were the Korean film Parasite, when they were kind of chanting that mantra in sync with one another. And not only did that make me think about my relationship with my own sibling, but that also took me back to the actual place where I viewed that film in Indonesia, Bali myself. So it was kind of like a double association memory I had. And that's the power of film, essentially. I can do that.
Thank you, AJ. I really liked how specific you were about the film that you chose, choosing Parasite. So, and I also noticed that Miko, you have answered the question, somebody else's question in the chat box. So it's really great that we can also have this interaction happening. We really welcome that. So let's go on to the next person. Raise hands either virtually or on the screen. And
we have Hugh
okay,
Nguyen raising his hand. So I'm going to ask you to unmute. Where are you? So many. You go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question about the actor and actress. I concern. I wonder when the actor or actress play a character in a movie, so that work effect on them, especially on the emotion, the emotion of a character in the film maybe affect them on in their real life. So anybody in the inside in the film industry. So can you answer my concern? Just a personal concern. You understand?
Hugh, the only problem is that it's coming in very choppy. Is that true for everybody? So maybe as a community, because technology is not perfect, maybe as a community, maybe we can help to answer that question based on a little bit of what we heard. I know we have very little time left. Sorry, Hugh, that technology is not perfect. But I heard something about actors and connecting to themselves as they act. Is that correct?
Yeah, and how that work on in film effect in them in their life.
So I think what I'm going to ask you is we have a lot of program left to cover. So I would encourage you to write it in the chat box. And I'm sure some of the people in our community, a lot of filmmakers, a lot of actors, producers online right now can help answer that question. Vietnamese or in English or Spanish, for those of us who speak Spanish. So I really encourage you to write that question in the chat box right now before we lose that, because we really want to honor what you just said. I think, oh, perfect. You are typing. Perfect. And Fa, you said you can't hear anything. Great. Let's take it to the chat box. I think we do need to move on. Do we have time, team? Do we have time for one more answer? No, I think we need to move on to the next, but we have plenty of program left. Okay, so we are 1/3 of the way through our program, and what we're going to do now is something that we call mental ginger. Ginger, as you know, cleanses the palate. After a lot of flavors, a lot of experience, ginger just wipes it down, allows us to refresh. So we're really going to encourage you for the next 15 minutes to do something that makes you feel good. Do something that nourishes you, whether it means laying down, whether it means watching a short film, whether it means just resting or listening to music, go to the bathroom, eat something, drink some water. Do something that is good for you, and then come back 15 minutes, but try to come back here in 10 minutes so we can all be ready to start up again, because we're going to start right on time. I think with that, we'll see you in 15 minutes. Really looking forward to the rest of the program.
I'm back for the roundtable with our filmmakers.
Yes. Thank you, Ai. I didn't know it was coming, so I was just like, whoa.
Are you okay?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello.
Hi Martika, how are you?
xem nắng muộn vàng trên hàng cây ra bước từng bước thật chậm, anh không muốn dừng chân còn tôi chưa muốn về cũng mặt trời treo trên mây cao sao mặt trời anh không mang nắng màu hoàng hôn trên lá anh cũng đâu thiết tha dòng người đi qua hối hả phải chăng anh không mặn mà nếu tôi có nhạt nhòa trong tâm trí anh cũng đâu bất ngờ. Chờ đợi quá lâu rồi tôi đâu sống như mây trời câu chuyện tình một thời xin anh hãy buông và cho tôi một
right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you did something that made you feel good, something that nourished you in the last 15 minutes. So I'm really excited about this next part. We have a group of filmmakers, superstars from the region, from Cambodia, Vietnam, the Philippines, and Singapore who are joining me for a roundtable discussion. Before we start in the roundtable discussion, if you have any tech issues, any problem with the technology, please let us know in the chat box. If you want to share your thoughts also on what you're hearing, please also share that. And also, I will try to speak more slowly. I'm trying my best, but I do speak fast when I get excited. So forgive me in advance. I will try my best. So this is not any typical roundtable discussion. This is a dinner party, if you will. But why this connection with food? Why are we connecting cinema with food? Well, for most of us, food is culture, and that's not really up for debate. As an immigrant myself, as a Colombian immigrant to Asia and to the US, wherever I go, I talk about my food. And anybody, when I lived in Hanoi, everybody debates about where the best pho is. When I lived in the Philippines, the best adobo, the best pochero. In Cambodia, you know, fish amak, or help me out, Akira, or any number of dishes, sour soup, and on it goes. Food is culture, right? It reminds us of our home. It reminds us of our family. But the second part is not so clear, which is our movies culture, is cinema culture. For some of us, that is undeniable. Undeniable that cinema is culture. But it's not so clear for everybody because there's such a wide definition of movies, from Marvel, Avengers films, to Apichatpong's films, art house films in Thailand. Such a wide definition. And don't even ask your grandmother if film is cinema. Film is culture, right? Very different definitions. What's really difficult is for aspiring filmmakers and young filmmakers particularly, is to step into that division and to look at, do I become an art house director, or do I join the industry, commercial industry, or do I join an agency because I need to make money, but I love cinema? So we're going to be talking to 5 directors with very different credentials, very different films, who have made it and who are established and who are continuing to make it in the region. And you've already looked at their bios over the break. You can look up IMDb for what they've made. So the first question that I'm going to ask them as they introduce themselves is a little bit different. I asked each of them to choose one film, a film that expresses how they feel in this moment, and to pair it with a food item and a drink item. And I will show you what I mean. A film right now that really speaks to me is Bi Gan's Long Day's Journey into Night. It's a film noir from China. Beautiful color, beautiful tracking shot at the end. And I'm combining it with some Kentucky bourbon, smooth on the throat. And then with, I had to write this down, some salted caramel and chocolate dessert. So this is my choice. So let's see. Let's go ahead and start with Digo. Digo, are you on? Can we see you? Digo Rico from the Philippines.
I'm right here.
Perfect. Take it away.
Well, actually, that question when you gave that to us, it was really pressuring for me because it's like there's so many films that ask food, and I couldn't really think of one immediately. But as I was thinking of it, actually, like Great Expectations. And there's this character there called Miss Havisham, which was really like an old lady who just keeps drinking. So I have this little wine with me. But the funny thing is, when I watch the movie, I know that it's not real wine. So I'm actually drinking a cranberry juice with some nuts.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you, Digo.
So that's, yeah.
And we'll hear more from you in just a little bit. Let's go on to our other filmmakers. Marty, are you ready? Martika Escobar from the Philippines.
Yes. So I forgot about the film, but when you mentioned it, I guess it's Harold and Maude. since at this point in time, I'm at my most existential because of this pandemic. It has me thinking about like life and our plans for the future more often. And right beside me, I have my sanity source. It's cookies. So recently, I've been baking a lot and selling them to my neighbors and friends to survive. So, yeah, I think that's a good pair. So, to match the existential crisis and this new sanity source of baking.
Excellent. And what drink would you add to that? Any drink?
I have here lemon tea and water. I have them to calm my nerves because recently, I don't know why, but every time I go to Zoom meetings, I have this abnormal like nervousness that I don't in real life meetings. So yeah, I just have them to calm.
I feel like we resonate. Many of us resonate with that nervousness. So maybe we all need more tea in our life. Thank you, Marti. We'll be talking a little bit more with you in a second. Let's go on to our filmmaker from Cambodia, Lomorpich Rithy, also known as Yuki. Yuki, take it away.
Hello, everybody. Great to see you all. So, there's so many films that speak to me right now. But I guess one of the films that I'm going to say is the Portrait of the Lady on Fire, because now it's raining. Just feel like just need a little bit of love, kind of that energy and intimacy and of course, and today is I have my salad, kind of, and also like tea. I know it's not a great combination, but just I don't know, it's weird when it's raining, it's make me feel differently every time. So this is very random. Okay. So like salads and then the warm tea. Yeah. Okay.
Perfect. Thank you, Yuki.
Yeah. Thank you.
Also, for those of you who are following along, it's really nice to be able to write down some of these films, some great classics, new classics, old classics. Let's go on to our next dinner table guest, Trinh Dinh Le Minh. I'm sorry if I made a mistake. Minh ơi, I'm sorry if I made a mistake. You'll forgive me. But why don't you tell us about your pairing?
Yeah, you did a great job. Don't worry about that. Actually, like, I'm thinking about a film by fellow filmmakers, Phan Big Father, Small Father, and Other Stories. In Vietnam, it's called like Cha và Con. So like that film is really beautiful portraits of young people, and they just spend time like wandering and drinking a lot. So like I prepare and drinking right now. This is Saigon beer. If you have come to Vietnam, it's a really popular one. And you can see this bottle in that film, Big Father, Small Father, and Other Story as well. And for the food, I having for myself this kind of like the food dish of like maybe Vietnamese tabas. We have like egg roll and some like Vietnamese ham as well. So basically, this is going to grab in this rice paper like this, and I have some like fresh herb like this. This is something that Vietnamese love a lot because we really prefer like fresh ingredients. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you, Min. And so far we've had for drinks, we've had fake wine, cranberry juice, we've had 2 teas and a beer. So let's see what Siew Hua Yeo, our fifth guest has for us tonight. Siew Hua, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Hi.
Hello?
Yeah. Hi, I'm Siew Hua from Singapore. In fact, I guess I will talk about the film that you had mentioned. That it's just maybe something that I saw more recently, because this was pretty much after the lockdowns. I could go back to the cinema. We could go back to the cinemas again, and so the first film that I saw was this is a restored version of Manila and the Claws of Light. I don't know the exact Tagalog how it's set, but yeah, it's a Lino Broca film. Yeah, some years ago, I guess considered something of a classic, except that it's a very treacherous film. So definitely not a comfort film, not a fun film to watch. No, it's a very yeah, it's about the crushing of human dignity. And so to pair that up with, I got this thing, which is like something like a bread of some sort, of like a gingerbread thing, except that this food itself has a very treacherous history also, in the sense that this is like a pig put in a cage, and like also how they used to trap pigs and kill them, which then later on also in some of the village practices, they used to put like adultering couples. So yeah, not so pleasant. Neither is this very nice, but I used to eat it when I was a kid, so I thought I would get it. And to pair that up with, I got milk tea. So another addition to the tea. Yep. And
another. I was wondering what you were going to pair for the drink with having such a treacherous film. Very hard. Lino Broca is not easy to watch.
No.
And then the story of the pig in the cage, that's also treacherous. But then you paired it with something so sweet and delightful as milk tea.
Yeah. I at the end I needed something comforting still, and I realized milk tea is for me really maybe really the go-to. Yeah, anytime, any day, and I'm very happy. One of the things I'm very happy with Southeast Asia is like no matter where I go, I can find milk tea.
That's true.
It's amazing. Like this for me, it just makes me feel really safe wherever I go in Southeast Asia. I will be able to find this milk tea, this particular kind of like very intense, very overburned milk tea.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, these are our speakers. These are our guests actually for this dinner party roundtable. Thank you all for sharing that. So it's going to be quite informal, but I'm going to try to do my best to make sure that everybody has a chance to speak. And our first question, in line with the question about experience, cinema being an experience, is a personal question and a very easy one, I hope, which is that what is your ritual? What is the experience, your preferred experience when you watch films? Do you go to the movies by yourself? Do you like to stay at home? What choices do you make when you watch films? So let's go ahead and start with Digo. Digo, are you ready? If you're not ready, I can go to somebody else.
I think I'm ready.
All right.
Okay. What rituals? Well, I'm normally like the type of guy who would go to cinemas. For some reason, I think there was quite a time wherein whenever I sit down and I'm watching a movie at home, I don't get to finish it. And there's always like this issue where I feel like I'm working. And like I always get to scrutinize everything that I see. Okay, this is how they did this and this is how they did that. And I kind of realized like, wait, I'm not relaxing. So that's why I really like going to cinemas. Because when I'm in a cinema, it's kind of like that mindset where you don't have to think about anything. You paid for this. This is your seat. And all you have to do is just enjoy. And everything is just, everything is dark. And everything is just that you see is just that thing. Now that I have to stay at home and I'm locked with no choice, but, to really just force myself and appreciate whatever it is that I have to watch. I think it's also about that, mindset that I have to tell myself, like, hey, you're going to watch a movie. You're not going to work. You're only going to think about what beautiful things that these people has created. And there are some that kind of, was successfully, I think my critic as well. If it was a good movie, I'd finish it. And I'd really love to like, just really watch and like really appreciate it. But once I feel like, I'm working and I'm just like scrutinizing all these things that I'm seeing, I usually end up falling asleep or like not finishing it, or just maybe cooking and then watch it again later. But yeah, normally it's like that complete mindset that you gotta psych yourself to movies. It's, I think, one way that you should be able to, I think, respect the work as well. It's not something that you should be just watching while you're doing something else. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I feel like you're speaking to the tension that a lot of filmmakers and film students feel, which is the separation of what they enjoy and their work, and it's one and the same.
Right.
So creating that ritual of separation helps creating that distinction, right?
Right.
So what about you, Yuki? What ritual, what choices, what preferences do you have when you watch films?
So for me, well, like if you're talking about the cinema here in Cambodia, it's very challenging in order to find like the art house film that will be shown in the cinema. Mostly it's commercial, big film. But for me, I try to catch the film in cinema as much as I can. And even so, if it's the film that we do have like a Monday, I have movie Monday where we have a proper like our homemade screening with a proper sounds at home. So just to watch the film that we really want to watch and care about. And so that we created our own like community, like kind of the Monday routine, just to watch the film and talk. And yeah, so, and I try to avoid not to watch the film with a smartphone with and the ear, like this, because like I think it's cinema is not just about the visual, but the sound, everything, so I want to respect that in elements. So, and also with the color grading, the sound. So, so this is what I always have in mind. And if it's not, like some people might like, okay, let's just watch it now with the laptop and everything. But I like, for me, I always find the right time to watch the film. I know it's kind of take a long time, but you watch when you get into it, it doesn't matter, because you respect to the film first of all. Second, it's an experience. Cinema is an experience. It's how one piece of work would make you feel differently. And yeah, I hope I answer your question.
I think you did.
Okay.
We're gonna go on to Xiao Hua. I know that from knowing you very little, I know you probably have very select choices. And I want to hear about that, but I also want to ask you how you feel when somebody is watching one of your films on a smartphone. I hope all the filmmakers didn't just have a small heart attack. Xiao Hua, I don't know if you can hear me. All right, he's frozen. So he told us that he was going to drop out at some point due to technology. Marty, let's move on to you.
Okay. So yeah, your question is about like my cinema ritual, right?
Yes, perfect. You said it shorter than I did.
So for me, I prefer watching films in a screen that's larger than like ourselves. So that's the cinemas, and I miss it so bad right now because all of the cinemas are closed, right? But what I like about it is the experience of watching something that engages like all your senses. I mean your sight and your oral senses. I like how it focuses you on paying attention on what you're seeing and hearing on screen, which we do not get that much when we watch on our smartphones. Because right now, I try to not watch in my phone because there are so many distractions. So, yep, yeah, that's all.
Excellent. Let's go ahead and ask Min Oi. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I'm listening to you now. So for me, like I only can watch like for some certain films, I can only watch them in the big cinemas, and I cannot hardly finish the film at home, like Diego said, because I think like when we get inside the theater, we just like in a totally different world. Like you said, that we separate ourselves from the reality. So in that moment, it's going to be like the perfect condition that you watch and to respect the art of like all the filmmakers. So like everybody here said, like I pay attention to like sound and image and color grading and the blocking of the directors and the performance of the actors. But like sometimes I also have to tell myself like just like try to stay away from like analyzing the film while watching the film, because otherwise I'm going to lose like the means of like entertainment at the same time, you know. Yeah, so this is my way of watching film.
Excellent. Yeah, and what I'm getting from most of you is that you create that separation, and you want cinema to be larger than life, to take over. So that leads me to a little bit to my next question, which is, cinema has taken over your life now. For most of us, it is your life. At what point in your career, at what point in your journey in the last few years, did you realize that that was a choice that you were making, that it wasn't just a hobby, that it wasn't just something that you were trying to do, but it was the thing that you were going to dedicate your life to? What was that moment that convinced you or that changed your life trajectory? Can you tell us a little bit about that? And instead of choosing someone to make you anxious, why don't you, whoever's ready can go first. Because I can see you thinking. Maybe we'll start from the back. Minoy, are you ready?
Yes.
All right, go for it.
Yeah, sure. So actually, like I'm just a well-rounded guy, so I think I can do everything. But for some reason, I feel like most comfortable when making films. For me, like making a film is not only about like me working by myself, but sometimes I feel like I have a connection with my crew and my actors as well. So like basically like while making film, this is the way that I can like share my voice and talk to the audience. At the same time, I can share my feeling and my thoughts with my crew and my actor and actress. So that's why I feel like it's really important for me to make film other than doing anything else. Although like I know that if I don't make film, I can still choose another career and I can still survive. So that's it.
Perfect. What about you, Yuki?
Okay, about film. Okay, so if I go visit my past, like when I was young, I never thought that one day I would become a filmmaker, or but I always knows that you know, watching film, watching TV is my favorite thing of all time. I'm growing up, you know, I'm a Disney child. I mean, like I'm a Disney kid who watching like Disney Channel and like different film. Even I don't pick up the language, but at my house we do have a cable TV where I can access to the different TV channel like HBO, Nat Geography, you know, like Channel V, MTV, you know, like all of that different kind of show in the United States. So I don't speak English when I was young. I only like know that this, but it makes the sound speak to me. And from there, then when I finished my high school, there's a cinema. Like I remember like almost every weekend we went to the cinema with my family. My mom took me to the cinema and we watched like the old film of Cambodian. And that speak to me a lot, which I didn't know what it was at the time. And until I finished my high school, I got to study in the university. So I was trained in the Department of Media and Communication, actually to be a journalist. And then from there, they teach you to be a reporter, writing, a radio host, and then a TV reporter. And then from the camera, I kind of feel it like, whoa, I can really capture this, tell this story here and there, play around with the image and put the sound, the voiceover, and, you know, kind of, it's not just about news writing anymore. It's just about telling, and then it's not just about like the reality, but a lot of things that you can play around with the mix and the sound, you know. And then I got to see the shadow performance, I guess, in the Southeast Asian most of the country have like the shadow puppet, the performance art. And that night was the night that I truly feel that I really want to be a filmmaker, because the way that the performance art, that kind of performance art is like it play with the shadow, and it tell the story from the shadow, and it's just like the film to me, but it's a form of art back to that old period of time. And then from there I was like, yo, I think like I know what I really want, and invest my time in it and figure out what it is. And yes, and then I try way to find this job, learning, do all of that volunteer, and got the scholarship to study abroad and come back and do the real job. And all of that journey that really confirmed that, okay, I want to be a filmmaker, and I want to invest my time being a filmmaker and telling the story. Yeah, I hope it makes sense. Sorry, it's a little bit long.
No. What I love about what you told us is that you told us an evolution of your story leading up to the moment with the shadow puppets. And I feel like a lot of people in our audience tonight can probably identify with having this journey where each step takes you one step further and surprises you. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you.
Siew Hua, can you tell us a little bit about what that moment was for you, that turning point where you thought, this is more than just a hobby. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life, assuming that it happened.
I think that's kind of how I would put it. Like, I don't know if it happened yet, in the sense that like, also like Yuki, I think my coming to encounter the image and the image being something more and something very close to my life or my being, this thing is like something that continues to grow, no? But I think also for the longest time, I'm just saying, okay, as I make a film, actually, whenever I make a film, I'm saying like, oh my God, this is so tough. I think this is gonna be my last. Like, okay, this has to be like the last one. I'm not gonna put myself through this anymore. Yeah, always, like every film. And then the next one happens for some reason, and then the next one happens, and then I would tell myself again, no, I'm not gonna put myself through this anymore. Okay, so this is still happening. Anyway, this is still happening. I think if you have to say like one moment, again, I don't have a moment, but maybe like last year only, when I was trying to tell my friend, and usually I will be able to quite convincingly say that, well, actually, if I'm not a filmmaker, I think I could still be like, I think I could still go do something else, like architecture, or like be a mathematician or something like this, something more like, like, yeah. But then I think last year I tried to say this to my friend, and then I couldn't say it convincingly anymore. I think that was the moment. Like I couldn't, it felt like a lie already. At some point saying it felt like a lie. And then I decided, okay, I guess I will not say this anymore. That's maybe the moment. It's self-realization moment.
So it feels like you crossed a boundary that you could no longer come back from.
Yeah.
Where it felt like a lie to go back to.
Yeah.
I
could still be a gardener, but I can't be an architect anymore. No,
You have to go back to the simple things. Yeah. I love what you shared too, because I think a lot of people might assume that you just make it and then you're good, and that what you mentioned about each film being its own struggle, its own battle, is so real. We heard from the voice of David Lynch, and a filmmaker of huge stature, a master of the form, and he said that every time he makes a film, it's like making a castle out of glass every day. And then at the end of the day, you have to destroy it, and the next day you have to make it again. And I feel like that's just what it is. Let's move on to, thank you, Siew Hua. Let's move on to Digo. Digo, what was that moment, assuming there was a moment?
There were a lot of moments, actually.
I'll try my best to actually shorten it. Actually, I told a few of this to Akira. The first one was, I think, my parents growing up as a kid, back when laser discs were still alive. I remember my dad, who always rents every day. So every time he ends up at work, he would normally ask us to join in the room and we just all have to watch movie. Back then, it was just, to me, it was just like just watching a movie. I didn't really have like anything. I have no opinion. I just have my favorites, and I didn't know I was a film lover. So, going to school, I actually did not take film school actually. And I realized like you don't have to be in a film school to actually be a filmmaker.
Mhm.
I went to fine arts and I actually took painting. The same thing as my dad and my brothers and everyone else in the family. So me shifting to production was my rebellious phase. Like I didn't want to be like everyone who's doing paintings, who's just doing exhibits or anything graphic. It's just I really wanted to play with my hands, and I really wanted to do stuff with maybe installations back when I was in fine arts. And so I shifted to production design. So my first job was working for MTV, and I was doing a lot of music videos almost like every day. It was like one band and then one music video and it's like every time. And then I got so tired of it because it's like just too small scale. Like I want to do something like more narrative or a little more engaging. And then I got a new job, which is more like a cooking show. So I kept fixing food every day. And I was like, no, I want something really bigger. And I so started I remember I started going on intern from a production designer who's been doing like mainstream movies. But that's like, the typical type, like, when the production designers don't really get to visit sets too much. So I get to be left behind and get to do everything. So I guess I kind of learned fast. So that was the first transition to it. It was a never ending love story of like, getting brokenhearted with what I'm doing. And I just keep trying to do it until I really try to, really get to the picture of it. And so when I started doing the real movie, met friends from film, and I just kept doing it, like production design and stuff. And then this was the 360. This is what I realized, like, okay, I'm gonna do something for film for my industry, or at the very least for the Filipinos. I went to Cannes for a film, and so I was young then. I think I was like 20 or maybe 19. I don't remember. But we had a film. I think that was not Independencia. That was, I think, now showing, but also with Raya Martin. And then I remember there was a time where, when you go to a different country and then there's a lot of like parties that will invite you to eat. And so there's this one party there that was filled up with so many Filipinos. And then, of course, I was a kid and I was like, I was in France. I want to go around, like I want to enjoy. And they were like, there's a party with Filipinos and they'd love to be there, would love to see us and be there. And like, okay. And then when we went there, all the food that they prepared for us are all Filipino food. It's like, dude, I'm Filipino. I eat this every day. I didn't go all the way to France to actually eat this. And then, okay, fine. I'm already there. So maybe I'll spend a couple of minutes or a couple of, hours just to, socialize. I was a kid. And then so the Filipinos started to talk about, how grateful they are. I'm gonna control myself because often when I tell this story, it brings tears to my eye because it touched my heart. So they said like they're very grateful because they felt that whenever they, like Cannes Film Festival in France is like one of the biggest events in France. And many Filipinos in France are oftenly like, at the lower class work, like OFWs or, like cleaners or whatever. And they just only, like they said that whenever that there's a Filipino entry in Cannes Film Festival, it validates their humanity, that they're not so low. Because the biggest event of the country, they're actually just, my country is just part of you, whatever that you guys are doing. And then it kind of like struck me, and I started eating the Filipino food. I started to feel like, I was just really like I felt bad that I was, I was looking at it that perspective, and I realized that one moment that they shared that event for us was actually the one moment that they get to see each other. They didn't even spend Christmas together because they were saving, and they were sending money to their families. So it was more like a celebration for them to actually, like share the moment of film and celebrate what film means to them, which may not mean anything to me. I was just doing my job. So when I went home, since then, it's like, that's actually the big 360 that made me realize, like, this small thing that you do could actually change a person's life, or, or move mountains actually, because yeah, I didn't imagine it would be that impactful. And so, yeah, I think I really did feel guilty actually after that. But then I think that's one reason why I still keep doing films. It's because of the opportunity that I may be able to help someone one way or the other with what little story I can tell or I can come up with. And that's just what I know about what film can really do.
And I feel like that's a really powerful testament to the impact that films can have, particularly with immigrant communities or even with identity within communities. I do have a question about that in just a second, but Marty, I don't want to forget about you. And I didn't do it on purpose, having both Filipino filmmakers at the end, but I wonder if there's how your story might differ from Digo's in any particular way. You don't have to respond that way, but I'm just curious.
Yeah, well, my film journey is quite different since I've always felt comfortable, and I've always felt that like this film or life of making movies is my natural path. It started from my childhood. So before, we used to have this family camera, and my mom would lend me that camera. So as a little girl, I would often take, family videos. And I think ever since, I've been fascinated with what the camera can do, like how it can record and replay like these happy moments with our family and with my pets and with my toys. And so I brought that love for the camera even in my grade school years and in my high school years. So I've always felt not inclined, but I had this like special love for moving pictures and photography. That's why I decided to pursue filmmaking in college. So I guess early on, I already knew that I wanted to be a filmmaker, and there were a lot of struggles because it's not like the most economically fulfilling job, but I'm lucky to have a family who sort of nurtured my love for movie making. And I also think that a big part of it is my childhood dream of becoming a magician. So before, I would like perform in front of our family, like tiny magic tricks. So now as a filmmaker, I still can be a magician through films. So yeah, I don't have a like big turning point, and right now I am still like struggling to like pursue this life because it's not easy, especially with the type of films I want to make. That's why I also work as a cinematographer so that I can hopefully save to make films I hope to make that are quite difficult to be like commercially produced. Yeah.
Absolutely. And Marty, you are definitely identifying something that if we had more time, we could explore, which is what have you had to do in order to get to where you are or to continue to doing what you want to do, whether it's making the films you want to make, directing or whatever it might be. Digo, I think you might be another person to ask how you balanced out directing and production design. However, I do want to ask, I know we could do 2 more hours of this, but I want to ask my last question, and then we'll move on to Q&A, which is the question that I started off with, which is, do you think that filmmakers have a responsibility to culture? Do you have some kind of a duty in contributing to culture, preserving culture? And I'm going to go ahead and start with Siew Hua particularly because your film, A Land Imagined, is about migrant workers, and it is, from my perspective at least, touches on that contested arena of identity in Singapore and in the region. Do you see your task as a filmmaker as one directly attached to culture? Is it necessary, essential?
Hi. So, yeah, on this topic of culture, actually, it's something that I constantly am thinking about, particularly after having made the film. Actually, there's also, I mean, with this issue of culture, I think a lot, you're not, it's not something that you're thinking about when you are making the film, no? You don't go about saying, okay, I'm going to write a film about culture, or like, this is a film that will contribute to the great human civilization. No. This is not how we go about making films. However, it is interesting that, like, after making the film, that you need to start answering a lot of interviews. You need to start, people ask questions, and you in Q&As, and so you start needing to field all these questions about your own works, kind of like the impact of your own work on something larger, and I think this is really when it will even if more retrospectively reflecting on this thing, that I think it really comes across as that, yes, I think without a doubt, I mean, cinema is literature, no? They're the same thing, in different. If you're gonna say literature is culture, then cinema is culture, no? Just as well as you're saying shadows, Asian shadow wayang kulit play, right? When Yuki mentioned, all this is culture, no? Is I think a lot of times it's also more about how, as a creator, I try not to think of myself. I think that there are people who frame these things into culture. I think that there are historians. I think that there's theorists. I think that there is like the academics who frame these things in a way that has a certain kind of cultural significance or interconnections. I think as filmmakers, we we basically tap. We just tap. We are like we just tap into the ground, no? I guess become some kind of conduit, become some kind of the vessel, right, to transmit, and then that culture kind of story naturally falls into something, but it might not be. I might not be the one deciding. Yes, this is all about culture, or this is not about culture. I guess in that sense. I mean, if you look at in Singapore, the case of the film Crazy Rich Asians, no? I think this film has gotten a certain notoriety or fame, depending on where you are at. I think a film like this is, it can become, I mean, it's super commercial, but it might actually end up being in the books of culture in some very important ways. Because of how it had, like, how people reacted against it, because of how yeah, basically it's bad for many reasons, but that itself makes it importantly culture also, and then I think lastly I will also say that I think since I'm not in the position of deciding that my work is culture, or like that I am making culture, although I think it is on some part culture, I think the only thing I can do then is how do I be good with creating representation in the film. I think this for me is then very important. Like, so whether is it, A Land Imagined, but I think as filmmakers, as responsible filmmakers, we want to make sure that we are dealing with our subject ethically. Once you got that set, everything else about culture falls into place.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's how I would, because I don't decide whether how cultural this film is,
Right.
but I get to decide whether is this film ethically representing.
So, Siew Hua, I'm going to move on to Marty just for a little bit, because I think that what you've said in A Land Imagined, this story about migrant workers, which is so relevant at this macro scale. Marty, when I look at your film, Living Things, which is shot on a phone, and is this relationship, contemporary relationship in a particular space between a couple, purportedly, forgive me, tell me if I'm wrong, but how do you see your role with this, not a smaller, but like a much more intimate relationship, if you will? How do you see your role as it relates to culture in that process?
How do I see my role as it relates to culture? Well, like what Chris said, I don't really decide on that before making like the film, even during and even after. But I think since our films are mirrors of people and places, I mean, we naturally like have the responsibility to sort of try to create something meaningful to not just for culture, but for, I guess, humankind. So, yeah. Did I answer your question?
You did, you did, you did. So I want to ask Min Oi, with your film.
Yes, I am.
You're there, great, still with us. With your film, for example, Goodbye Mother, obviously you're representing an issue that is quite polemical in the region, maybe less so now, but how did you think about your own role in terms of how you are, do you see culture contributing to culture as an essential feature of your task?
Yeah. I have to agree with Siew Hua. Actually, when making a film, I just like thinking about the thing that upsets me and the thing that I want to share with other people, when to share with audience. So when making Goodbye Mother, so when I read the story, I just feel like deeply connected to the film with the theme of like individualism versus the expectation of the big family and family tradition and value as well. So like the starting point of the film, I think like I try to reflect what I do care about. So I think like because I have everybody and not only me and every single filmmakers that had a kind of like cultural background. So when we reflect what we are thinking and what we reflect our desire, we are in that way we already like reflect the culture that we deeply connected and like and understood about it. So yeah, like Siew Hua said, I think the role of the filmmakers here is like if we make like more indie film, right? We can by a way like balance some kind of like misconception about culture, like from some blockbuster film that they reflect it, and some people may put it in the cultural book of culture, whatever. So like if we make more films, we can balance our voice and make audience that have different choices and have different reference about culture. So this is my point.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that really helps to ask a question to Digo. Digo, our last three filmmakers kind of made the point that a lot of their creative process comes from their own obsessions, what they observe, and the story or their obsession comes first, and then the questions around culture come later. In your case with Independencia, which is black and white, which is about history, it is about kind of history making, reflecting on history. The aspect ratio is different. It seems like you are very much connected to the making memory, making history for a country like the Philippines, where history is, let's say it's contested, it's debated. How did you see, especially at that age, your role in contributing to culture? Is that something you thought of as a first thing, or did that come later?
Generally, you know what, like when you ask that question, it's like, it's a yes and it's a no. It's a yes only because, yes, you have to think about these things because, yes, films has strong impact to people and you are responsible for that. But no, only because I think you should really be more focused about your message as a filmmaker, and that will come naturally. I think the same as like what everyone has been saying. It's just naturally going to come out in you from the smallest things, like the small decisions that you make on a shoot, like whether you pick a glass of water and where should it be contained. It's just naturally going to come out. And if actually, I remember this quote that Spike Jones said, that the past is just a story that we all tell ourselves. And it's just, I always remember that. It's because it's just that thing that you always know that you're supposed to be aware of. You're supposed to be aware of yourself, your thoughts, your dispositions, your message, because those are the things that's kind of going to come out in your film, no matter what you do, no matter how much you control it. But in a way, I'm not the type of filmmaker who would make a film to make a cultural story. And if I remember it right, with Independencia, it's also not that. It's just, I think I remember the director, Brian Martin, was just really like, just into, old looking films. And just back then, I was just really into making old looking stuff, but I know for a fact that he's never the type like, our country needs to be like this, that, it's never like that. But I think when you're kind of true to yourself and like, what you really what you really believe in, no matter what you do, it just comes out. And even if like, I don't know, for me, even if I try to just change it a bit, no matter what you do, even for directing, my opinion or what I think about my country or my culture, I would always come up with something that I think I believe in. Mm-hmm. Because it's hard. The same manner as I think no film director could even direct films that they don't believe in. Mm-hmm. That's a cultural thing also. Like, no, I don't, let's say, like, for example, like, I don't like to do action films, like, because I don't believe in that. It's a cultural thing, because I myself maybe don't have a background of some sort. But yeah, it's really that, I don't know, that's why I think, I'm not sure if it's a yes or a no, but it's a yes deep inside because it comes from you, but no, mm-hmm. because it's not something you consciously do. Right. Or I think it's not something that you don't want to use films as a propaganda always. There were and there are successful ones that kind of changed the world, but if it's always like that, it's kind of, I don't know, kind of lose its meaning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and Yuki, don't think I've forgotten about you. We're going to go ahead and ask the question to you. But with you not only are the director of Young Love, which is a contemporary romantic story, which so many Cambodians have connected with, in a country that has deep history, traumatic history, but also very new history that young people kind of want to be like, hey, what's new? But you're also a film festival host. So how do you think about culture with these two different lenses, as a film festival host, but also as a director directing these more contemporary kind of themes?
Well, how can I start? Okay, so well, if it's talking about the film and the culture, and let's take a look at where I come from. So when we're talking about the word culture, in Cambodian, we call it Vapatoa. This is our word, Vapatoa. So it's the combination of the two words, Vapa and Toa. It means to share the knowledge, to share the story. So to me, I think like the culture is not only about the past, but actually the story is, but the culture is, I mean, like the culture is not only talking about like culture, it's the culture is a story that been passed on from generation to generation, and it tells the story of the people. And I believe every one of us has the story to tell. And by that all mean, we as a filmmaker, we choose to tell the story by cinema. And so does other artists. They choose to tell the story by painting, by making music, by creating podcasts, by writing literature. So I think it's just the way of passing around the story. And why it's important? Because the story is what makes us humans. And because of the story, because we pass on, we know and we learn and we move and we develop, and that's how it's create us as a human. Also, it's emotionally, I think we are the most, I mean, like not the most intelligent creator on earth, but the creator who has like emotion, like knowing what it is. And that's how culture reflects the cinema reflect the culture. And at my position where I'm also the a festival director who curate the performance art, music, and different kind of art form. To me, because I see art and culture as a story, so why not just like, you know, have a platform, join the platform together, and let allow people to immerse themselves and learn the story, you know, and that is matter. The power of storytelling is really important to all of us, like us the humans. Like that's how I see. And yes, I agree with the previous speaker, like filmmaker, that talking about do we responsible for the film we produce? Of course, yes, but we're not the one who decided, yo, this is my statement, this is right or this is wrong. But you had some say to say it as an artist, as your perspective, as your point of view. So of course there's no such thing like right or wrong in the way that you are telling your story, you know. So yeah, this is how I see it. I hope I answered the question.
I very much think you did. And I think what was really beautiful was seeing how varied the responses were. And I think another question might be where the source of these stories comes from each one of you. We do have to close this section. It's been an amazing time. Per usual, I wish we had so much more time, but I'm going to close with one question from the audience that has come through the chat, that has been told to us, and that really resonates with what some of you have been saying about making choices. And I am going to ask you to please be brief as you can be, because we have limited time. So the question is, as filmmakers, you have to make so many choices. Light, sound, actors, so many choices that when an audience experiences it, they experience it as a whole, all of it together. What is one thing that you wish audiences would notice, a detail that you wish they would notice more when they watch your films? And please be as specific and concise as possible. What is one detail you wish audiences would notice that you've selected in the process of making this film? And why don't we start from the back to the front? Yuki, are you ready to kick us off? Or do you want me to go to somebody else?
Well, I think I need a bit more time. Think about it. Okay.
Min Oi, you ready?
Yes,
I feel like you're always ready.
Yes. I think I do want the audience look at all of the look, the way the actors look and exchange the looks to each other. I think it's important because sometimes by looking, we don't need to say anything, but it's already like tell a lot of things. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. Siew Hua?
I'm wondering if I could, be able to request my audiences to look at my films like how the people in the films are not like themselves, meaning that to not try to relate to the films. I think because that is the most natural inclination, is to try to relate to the film. But actually, I think I don't actually try to make films that make you relate to your own experience, but actually it's more like a bridge to the experience of the other rather than to yourself. So maybe that's like a detail that I would,
That would require its own forum, that answer in and of itself. But don't empathize. Don't actually try to empathize, but respect how different that experience might
Exactly.
be.
Like basically my film is not a mirror. My film is not a mirror to your life.
Yeah.
Don't try to look for yourself in the film. Just try to like watch someone else's life for a change.
Right.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. How about you, Digo?
It's actually very similar to what Shoho just said. To me, it's actually just look at films beyond entertainment. You know, because I came from a culture which, you know, is highly affected when I was a kid. Like we had films that has all the genres in it. Like it's, you can cry, you can dance, you can laugh, you can get scared. And you realize, like, you know, film is not just about being entertained. It's really the message. And it's because there's so many people that's working in there, and there's just more to that communication. So I think it's that thing that you want to look for. What is it trying to tell you? What did it made you think? And even if you don't like it, it's maybe that's the goal of the film, for you to actually feel a little abrupt or to feel a little not comfortable. And yeah, I'm speaking in terms of like from the people that coming from my country. They're always looking for films that are entertaining. So yeah.
I would love to ask you, and I'm not going to, but for people to think about it, our audience to think about it, how you would relate that to, for example, making Emir, which is a musical, or doing production design in that, and then somebody like Lav Diaz, another Filipino master, who does a musical to do, you know, using something like a musical that is so entertainment based to talk about something in Siew Hua's terms so treacherous or difficult. So I'm not going to ask that question, even though I did, because we need to move on to Marty and to Yuki. But what are things, just to remember the question, Marty and Yuki, and let's go with Marty first. What are things that you wish the audience would notice, details about your films, if you could control that, if you could tell them?
Well, my films on surface, they look pretty silly, like people turning into cardboard versions of themselves, or a woman falling in love with a rock. So even though they're mostly silly, I hope, I just want people to find meaning in that silliness. So that's sort of my main goal.
I think that's wonderful too, because people seem to think that the only serious thing can be drama, or the only meaningful thing can be a dramatic or hard movie. The only way to do art is if it's difficult, but silliness has so much meaning. So I'm glad you mentioned that. Well, let's finish with Yuki. Yuki, what do you wish people would notice from the films that you make?
Well, okay. So I have two things to say now. The first of all, I really want people like who watch my film and feels like I'm actually talking to you, and I want to make you feel like I feel, and perhaps you can ask me a question, because like why I decide to put this scene or that scene in that way, you know. So I really like to be your body, where you actually watch my film and feel it and ask me, you know. So that's the wish that I wish. And the second one, hopefully they would ask like where this film come from. I would be proudly say this is from Cambodia, because maybe from the outside perspective on my country, perhaps it's only been like a single narrative about the war, corruption, all of that on Cambodia. But there's so much more beside that, more narrative coming from this lovely country. So hopefully people like us like, oh, okay, this is a story from Cambodia. Wow, okay, such thing happened in Cambodia too, not just the war. Okay, so this is two things that I really wish. Yep.
Oh, I love that. Just the relationship with you, the kind of dialogue that you're having with the audience, but also to ask a question of how does the history of a place, how does this film challenge what I know about this place? What are news stories that are coming from not just Cambodia, but from every one of the countries that our filmmakers are represented from, and even from my own, from Colombia. So many new narratives that we need to create as filmmakers. Well, thank you. We went a little bit longer. Thank you all for being patient. We're going to go into a mental ginger now. I believe we have 7 to 8 minutes for you to take a break, go to the bathroom, take a 5-minute power nap, do some exercise, do what you need to do, but come back in 7 minutes, I believe, for the last part, which is a scene deconstruction, which I'm really excited about. A scene deconstruction with director Phan Nhật Linh, who will be in conversation with breaking down one of the scenes from one of his latest films. So I'm really excited about it. Please don't go away. Don't miss it. It's going to be the last act, the last plate of this dinner. So we're going to put some music. We'll see you in 7 or 8 minutes.
Chẳng hay biết rằng yêu em chỉ mong ta mãi sau phút giây mình trở lại sẽ tìm thấy nhau vì chính em cô gái ngày hôm qua biết nỗi nhớ trong anh thành mong manh dịp kéo nỗi nhớ trong anh lại mây xanh vì chính em cô gái ngày hôm qua vẫn anh mơ thương ngày ngày bên anh chẳng hay biết rằng mình yêu em. Nhận ra em hôm nay anh chờ khoảnh khắc này để muốn nói với em, vì chính em có cái ngày hôm qua biết anh nhớ trong anh thành mong manh, kéo nỗi nhớ trong anh lại mây xanh, vì chính em có cái ngày hôm qua vẫn ánh mắt thường ngày ngày bên anh, vẫn tiếng nói sao thân thuộc bên anh, em vì chính hãy vào nắng về đi, cho em quên nhớ nhung, cho em quên những phút giây muộn phiền. Hãy vào nắng về đi, để chuyến tàu đã vượt qua, đôi bàn tay chót buông những kỷ niệm xót xa êm hẹn. Anh nói vội câu là yêu, là thương, là nắng, là
Welcome back, everybody, for the final act of the final course of our meal. I'm not going to take much more time speaking, as we've already had a really beautiful roundtable discussion, but I just want to introduce the next person, Ai Vuong, who is the Director of Creativity for the School of Social Media and a filmmaker herself. She's going to be in conversation with Phan Nhật Linh. So Ai, it's all you for this last bit. Really excited for this.
Thank you, Samuel. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for sticking around with us to this really, really special opportunity that we have to speak with the filmmaker, producer, and film writer, Phan Nhật Linh. Earlier in the day, we really delighted in everything that film and cinema could be in our film meditation. So from the sound and the different images and the production and all of the, to really see and feel all of the different choices that goes into what makes a film. And then we also got to talk to 5 filmmakers from around the region about, you know, what makes film culture and how do they approach film and what do they want you to remember when you watch their film. Now we're going to be doing a scene deconstruction with Phan Nhật Linh's film Cô gái đến từ hôm qua, so The Girl from Yesterday, and he's really gonna be able to get a chance to ask him and to see all of the different choices and the thought process of what it takes to go from an idea to the script to production, and then ultimately what we as the audience member gets to see. So with that, I'd like to introduce I'm Linh, and if you can introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the film and what we're going to watch.
Hi, everybody. So my name is Linh, and I'm the director of Cô gái đến từ hôm qua, The Girl from Yesterday. This is the film that you're going to see the first 6 minutes. So this is the film that we adapted from a very popular book written by a popular writer, Nhật Ánh, and it's about first love. I really love this book. So when I have a chance to adapt it, I'm so happy. And this is my take on this book. There's some like personal experience, personal feeling from me to get input into the movie. It's slightly different from the book, but like most of the part is actually adapted from the book. So I hope you will enjoy this first 6 minutes. If you haven't seen this movie, I'm sorry that like later on I have to spoil the movie. But you can watch it on Netflix. The movie is on Netflix and Galaxy Play in play in Vietnam right now.
Thank you, Linh. So now we're going to be watching the opening scene of The Girl from Yesterday.
Chờ đầy hoa phượng, em chờ mùa hè của tôi đi đâu. Chùm phượng vĩ em cầm là tuổi tôi 18. Thôi chẳng ai hay, thầm lặng mối tình đầu.
Tôi không bao giờ nghĩ sẽ có một ngày tôi lại khóc vì một đứa con gái.
Là cơn mưa răng răng ngoài cửa lớp, là áo ai bay trắng cả giấc mơ, là bài thơ còn hoài trong vở giữa giờ chơi mang đến lại mang về.
Hồi nhỏ tôi ngon lành hơn bây giờ nhiều, cho nên nhiều khi tôi thường hay ngồi mơ màng hồi tưởng là cái thời huy hoàng xa xưa với nỗi thèm muốn và ghen tị không thể giấu giếm. Bây giờ Tôi còn nhớ rõ mồn một cái ngày mà tôi cùng gia đình dọn tới chỗ ở mới. Lúc đó tôi mới chừng còn 7-8 tuổi gì à. Ngày mới dọn tới, tôi khoái chí chạy long nhăm khắp chỗ. Lúc này mẹ tôi còn chưa sinh con nhỏ Phương, cái còn tiểu quỷ em gái tôi, nên căn nhà trông thiệt là rộng rãi và vắng vẻ. Đang chơi một mình, tự nhiên tôi thấy sân nhà bên kia có con nhỏ đang ngồi chơi cát. Mà hồi đó muốn chơi với đứa con gái nào, tôi làm quen cái rụp gọn hơn vậy nè.
Ê, mày tên gì? Tiểu Ly. Tiểu Ly là đi tiểu ở trong cái ly á hả? Anh nói bậy quá. Ê, chơi gì vậy? Cho tao chơi chung với Ngang.
Anh làm em sợ hết hồn mà, thả tay em ra đi.
Chừng nào mày phải nói hết chuyện tao thì tao mới thả tay mày ra.
Rồi, em hết giận. Anh tên gì vậy?
Thư.
Tên anh giống tên con gái quá.
Tên con gái hồi nào? Ý, mày súng răng kìa. Chắc tại mà ăn kẹo nhiều quá.
Không có phải.
Lần sau có kẹo kêu tao ăn giúp cho.
Thấy không, bọn con gái dễ bị dụ lắm. Lúc đó tôi đang nghĩ miên man đủ mọi thứ hấp dẫn xem ngoài chuyện dụ đồ ăn ra. Tôi còn có thể bắt nạt Tiểu Ly chuyện gì nữa. Rồi tôi sung sướng đi đến kết luận con gái ngu thế mồ.
Thư ơi, dậy đi học con ơi.
Nhưng đó là kết luận hồi nhỏ thôi. Bây giờ tôi rút ra một kết luận khác, kém phấn khởi hơn. Con gái càng lớn càng khôn, con trai càng lớn càng ngu. Và đây chính là cái ngày định mệnh bắt đầu mọi sự khổ sở của đời tôi.
Trời ơi, trễ giờ con rồi. Ba mẹ em không vậy?
Nè.
Ba ơi, cái xe đạp này là...
Sẽ là của con. Nếu như con đạt loại khá, ít nhất một lần trong đời học sinh của con. Năm nay đã là năm cuối rồi. Nếu con không cố gắng
sẽ không vào đại học.
Suốt đời chết dí ở đây.
Con này. Ba mẹ có đi học.
Bây giờ là năm 1997, kinh tế châu Á đang khủng hoảng nên tôi cũng hay cháy túi lắm. Chương trình Làn Sóng Xanh ra đời, anh hai làm trường ra album đầu tay Baby I Love You. Nhưng mà tôi chưa được nói I Love You với ai hết. Đây là năm học cuối cấp 3 rồi, cho nên đứa nào có yêu ai thì phải tranh thủ thổ lộ trước khi năm học kết thúc. Chứ sau năm nay mỗi đứa sẽ đi theo một nẻo đường khác nhau. Nói vậy thôi, chứ đám bạn học lớp tôi toàn lo học hành, rồi lo chuyện cộng điểm, chuyện chọn đại học. Còn riêng phần tôi thì tôi xác định rồi, học ngu như tôi thì chỉ có chết dí ở đây thôi.
Ai dạ? Chạy hả? Đừng lại.
Hồi đó cô vô chạy như vậy.
Học sinh nghe.
Ai á? Cái gì nữa?
Xin lỗi thầy.
Cô Vô Hường, hôm nay đẹp quá.
Cười gì?
Em học sinh mới á thầy.
Đúng rồi cô.
Cảm ơn thầy. Các học sinh thân mến, ngày hôm nay thì chúng ta sẽ đón một bạn học sinh mới từ thành phố chuyển về lớp mình. Giới thiệu với các em bạn Nguyễn Việt An. Vô đi em.
Ngay khoảnh khắc này, lần đầu tiên tôi trông thấy Việt An, tôi đã hiểu rằng từ nay trở đi, đời tôi đã không còn tự do nữa.
cho mình xin hút mật nha.
Great, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that opening sequence, and be prepared for spoiler alerts. But now Linh is going to break down that opening sequence for us scene by scene or frame by frame. So go ahead.
Yes. So let's talk about like the way the brainstorm process that like usually when I work on a movie, one of the important thing I always think is like how you structure everything. And I really like the first sequence of my movie, like all of my movie. I want to let people see what it's really about and how you can plan to pay off later and introduce to audience to so they know the word of the character, what they are going to see for the rest of the movie. So for this movie, as I said, it's based on a book, and so it takes time to see like how can I jump into the movie, but not like in the order as a book. So one of the solution that like I decide to jump in uh, kind of in the middle of the movie. So the scene you see in the opening actually is not from the beginning. It's not really in the end too, but it's in the middle of the movie, and it is it's not what you think it is. Like you see. So the first shot is the flower, the flamboyant flowers, which is the represent for high school experience. So most of Vietnamese students, we love this flower back in the day, especially during the 90s, because like when this flower show up, it means the summer is coming. So you have summer, you love summer, but also it means it's the time that you have to say goodbye to your friends. So I choose a song back in the 90s because this movie actually uh, is depicts the 90s time. And one of the line of the song is like, how do you feel? Do you know about my first love? And this movie is about the first love, so that's why I want to choose a song with this flower. And I love to open my theme with flowers. My first movie opened with the flower. This movie too, and my third movie the same. You will see it's always the very first image of the movie is always some type of flowers. And then I introduced one character. It's very special. It's not in the book. It's a fictional. I call him in the script. That's the inner part of the main character. So the guy who playing the song, uh, he is he's kind of like singing how the main character feeling. So that is the first picture, the first image of uh, this scene. Can we go next to the next frame? So we see this guy. We introduce the main character. We see him cry, but this is it's a trick. Later on, you will find out he's not really crying for the love at this moment. But the question he's saying that like he never think that he gonna cry for the girl will be answered by the end of the movie and how that happened. Uh, and can we go next? So and then we go back to the past. So this movie, the structure is like we go parallel the present and the past. So this is how I introduce, like the main character too, and also the world. So the movie have two timeline, the 1997 and the 80, so 86. So it's like 10 years apart, and like we see the work, and when we do location scout, we also choose the two locations that look similar in terms of the structure of the house. If you go, can you go to the next frame? You will see there's a canal like right in front of the house, but the house look very different because like it's 10 years. So a lot of things in this movie, I put it there very subtle that like after 10 years, a lot of things change. And even though it's still the same house, even though it's still the same person, but they are, different in a way. Like his house is now really, really big compared to the house in the past. Uh, so it's kind of like I want to introduce the two worlds with how it changed in 10 years, and this is one of the ideas for the movie that uh, there there are people from the past, but when you see them again, you might not recognize them, and that's one of the twists of the movie. Can we go to the next scenes? So this is our like our main character. Like we introduce him as a boy who doesn't scare of the girl, very confident when he want to know a girl, want to meet up with a girl. But in the opposite, 10 years later, he's very shy. He cannot talk to the girl that he likes. So that's like one of the things. And then also for his character, we still see him like, he's very naughty when he's a kid, like bully, his friend. And then when he grow up, he's still the same boy. But the difference is like, when you're a kid, you so easy to talk to the girl. When you grow up, it's so difficult to talk to the girl. Can you go to the next? So, like, I try to keep, the look of these two boys is very different. The expression of him. But for the girl, if we go, can we go to the next frame? Oh, so this is his family. I also want to introduce his family, parents and sister, and we introduce the whole family. Always try to support him, but that's why he really wants to be a good boy, a good student. But sometimes when you're in school, even you try really hard, it's very hard to get the high score. And one of the idea for this boy that um, he is a guy who always have a great imagination. He's more like an actor, but like in high school, especially in Vietnam back in the day, they just want you to study like mathematics or physical or something that later on you become a doctor, you become a teacher, you become an accountant, but not really become an actor. But this boy, he's very good with art, but he's very bad at everything else. But like people around him don't really understand. And then that get into the story later. We see like on his drawing become like in real life and something like that. And then it also connect the past and the present. We go to the next thing. So I also want to introduce, the word, the 90s. You know, it's very different from now. Like people don't use like the reason I choose like 1997. Uh, Personal reason. That's my time when 1987 I was in 12th grade, same as the main character. But also that is the last year that in Vietnam we haven't had internet yet. So like, I think 1997 is kind of like the first time we start having internet. So before internet, everything is very different. People connect to each other through like written letters. Like you don't use like Facebook, you don't use like iPhone, to connect with someone like nowadays. So like it's very important to set up like the world 1997. So we have a montage with the voiceover introduce like what happened during that time. Okay, next shot. So we introduce the main character, like the female character. She's the new girl, and so it's very important for me to have this fantasy. We see him look at her, and then he start have imagination about this girl when she walked in, all the flowers. So it show how our main character feel about the girl he liked, and also this is my choice for showing type like external light and internal, like how my main character feel. So throughout the movie, we will see several sequence that showing he have this fantasy about her, like and then there's like a lot of that were cut out by the end of the movie, the final cut, but still we still keep that for like very important moment like this moment. And then also um, the the twist of the movie, again, spoiler, she's the one that she's the same little girl that he bullied in the past that we find out by the very last minute of the movie. But throughout the movie, there are several visual reference that, in a way, that like several to show they are the same girl. So if you watch the movie and if you don't really care, it's fine. Like you don't know by the end. But if you really look closely, you will see like there's many part that we show, they have the same type like composition. For example, like this is the first time we see Việt An. There's a flower and plant, green plants around her. So can we go to next slide? Same with the first time we see Tiểu Ly, the little girl. Even though it's not, many flower, but we see her, have like uh, in the center and around her there's like plant and green plant. So it's kind of like very similar visual uh, to give, kind of like a hidden suggest that they are the same one. But if you don't really notice it, then you don't know about that one. And can we go to the next slide? Is that the last one? Yeah, I think that's the last one. So like overall, like for me, like the first 6 minutes, introduce the theme of the movie, introduce the visual style, the visual concept, the word of the two main characters, and the questions that we will have, we will find out the answer by the end of the movie. So that's how when I write the script, like all of this, we have to, after we finish the script, the first draft, we go back and then see like how can we plan everything in the end. We put it in the beginning, but without people seeing it too obvious, because if they watch the second time, they will see it. So it's kind of like a game for me.
Thank you so much, Eileen. I actually watched this movie with my dad, and
Yeah.
it was the first Vietnamese movie that he had seen in a long, long time. And it was really nice for him because it was in 1997. So the sense of like memory and remembrance of Vietnam and the countryside. Before we dive deeper into specific choices that you made for the opening scene, I wanted to ask you, as a filmmaker, because we have a lot of actors and young filmmakers in the audience, as a filmmaker, there's so many stories to tell. You have, stories from your own life, stories from books, and just so many things in which you want to convey into film. What was it about this story that you felt that this is the thing that I want to work on for the next few years? Like, this is the one that I want to make right now. How did you decide that you wanted to make this film and tell this story?
So, like as I said early on, for The Girl from Yesterday, it's one of my favorite books. I read this book I think 20 years ago, and no, more than 20 years ago. I think it's like 25 years ago when I was like a teenager. And so when I have a friend who asked, he's a producer, and said like, do you want to adapt this book? At first, actually, I really like Nguyễn Nhật Ánh and his books, but my favorite one is not this one. This one is just like one, he has so many books. But then when I reread the book, I realized that this is one of the rarely books that have a happy ending. Most of his stories have a very sad ending. And the thing is, like, personally, I want to make feel good movies at that time, for personal reason. I want to make people feel good. Life is so hard already. So it's so when you, and then also this remind me my my high school experience. I really enjoy my high school life. But there's one thing that I wish that I could be different. That when I'm going to high school, I only focus on studying, so I don't really like hang out with friends and playing and doing other things. So like I always wish that okay, if I can go back there, I want to like feel more free to myself, not just only focusing on studying and enjoy other good things like being a teenager. You can do wrong sometimes. So this movie is a chance for me to live that experience again with the main character, who is not really care about studying, but really care about his love life, which is good. So so that's why I say, okay, I want to do this movie. And so this movie is really, it's kind of my my personal experience and my personal reason that I want to do a movie about that time, my high school experience, and a life that I didn't have. So yeah, I think that's the reason.
Yeah, I resonate with that because with a lot of Vietnamese people that I speak to, high school, cấp 3 is a really, really special time. Like you remember that time very fondly because that's before university and life gets much more complicated. So in a way, you wanted to capture that like that time before when everything was still really nice and beautiful, and young love, right?
Yeah.
I wanted to also ask, so when you wrote the script and when you started the process of writing the script, how did you first, like, what did you do first? And what was your process like in thinking through the story and then putting it down into a script?
Yeah. This book is actually very, very difficult to adapt, because basically actually it's not it doesn't really have a story. It has a story, but it's more like, for me, it's more like a slice of life, you know. So when I read the book and I say, okay, how can I connect this with this one? How can I visualize this story? And then it took me a while until one day when I read the book, and then in the story, the main character, he borrowed a book from the girl, and then he you know, he just borrowed it for to have a reason to talk to her, and so he didn't really read the book. And then the girl said, okay, you have to give me back tomorrow. And then so he went home, he tried to read the book. So I start thinking, okay, so what is that book really about? So I find the book. I think it's for cánh buồm trắng, and another one's like Chuyện của Thảo Nguyên. And so I read the book, and in the book there's a part that one of the characters in that book, he falling into the water and he turned into a fish, and that visual is very strong, and it made me think, okay, how about my main character reads this book, and then he read it until like 3 a.m. He fall asleep, and then he see himself turn into a fish. So it starts from there, and then that's where I start having the visual concept for the whole movie. I see this boy, whenever he think about the girl he like, he have a fantasy. He see himself turn into a fish. He see himself turn into a bee. He see himself turn into a bird. You know, so like, you know, fish, bird, bee. Those animal actually kind of represent for a, a, a sexual. And this movie is like, you know, coming of age. So that's but we don't really talk about sex in the movie. But you know, when you're in high school, and love is something is like sexual. So so that's how I start to have the idea how I want to adapt this one. And then, you know, I develop the character. I put him more as an artist, like, you know, like the one who love art, and then that's why he always have the imagination. He also have an inner person that, like, you know, we have a character like that, like who always sing a song to say what how he feel, like have like we call externalize the internal. And so that's, you know, that's how I start having the connect with the story. And from there, you know, because like the book already have a structure, I just like put everything together, and then and use this visual concept to insert in a certain moment to make it connect like everything and make it more interesting. Does it make sense?
Yes, of course. For me, one of the most visually striking aspects of this film is the animation and the fantasy and the magical realism of the film, because usually the films that we see are, you know, they can be very gritty and dark, or just kind of, this is everyday life and we want to portray everyday life. And I know that you said that you wanted this kind of fantasy world to really be a big part of it, so we can hear his inner voice, but we can also see what he sees. Did you always imagine that you wanted to convey that through animation? And how did you decide on what animation style and what it looks like?
Yeah, like I always know that I want to do it as animation, but the texture for the animation is a long conversation with my supervisor. We brainstorm. You know, we have like at first, like we have different idea for how we're gonna do this. You know, visual. And then when I was on set, when we was at the set of Thu's house, so I said, okay, how can I show in his room to see a part of his talent, you know? And then I found out that my actor, Ngô Kiến Huy, he's a very talented actor, and also he's very good with art. So we have a clay on you know on set, and he started using the clay and play with it, and he turned it into like different shape, like animal, like some like character, like animation character. And I also put some like clay stuff in the on the set. And then I said, okay, how about we make it on his, you know, imagination? It's kind of like it's a clay, you know. So that is how he see the world. So you see like the bee or the flower, the bird, the fish, is all made by clay, you know. So that's what is the treatment. But we didn't have that until later. Like even like on set, you know, like we have those things in on set. But like when I sit down with the VFX after we shooting and during the post, we go back and forth. We try different texture for on the animation, and then so we end up using the clay to do that one. So if you go back and watch the movie, you will see all of those they are made by clay.
So you had the original idea, and then the inspiration and kind of more details began to be refined as you also included different people and was inspired by the real life talents of the team.
Yeah.
So everything that we see on screen as an audience member is the product of years and months of planning and eventually setbacks. In the opening scene, can you give us a little behind the scenes of maybe what was the biggest challenge to do on set? That maybe you were like, this is not going to happen. We're not going to be able to do it. And then how that shifted to what we actually saw on the screen.
Let's say, so for example, like the scene with the little kid. When we introduce the kid, I want to do it in one shot. You know, the very long shot. We end up cutting the shot like because of the time of the movie. We cannot have like make the movie too long. The first cut of this movie is 3 hours and 35 minutes. And then, you know, by the end, we cut into 2 hours. So there's a lot of stuff that had been cut out of the movie. But when I want to introduce the first shot of the two kids, we want to do a long shot, and I want to make it look beautiful. So we wait until like I think like 4 p.m. is the best time of the day that we can have on the sunlight go on the right time, and you know, so we prepare everything, we rehearse everything's, you know, so wow, like everything is just like, okay, be ready. And then when we start shooting, I hear a crying behind the fence from Hami with the little girl, and we don't know what happened. You know, we're streaming, and then like the boy run to that, and we follow the boy, and then we see the girl, and then she crying, and I was like what's going on? So I asked my, you know, assistant, like come and ask like who makes her cry. So we, you know, we come and ask her like why did you cry? And then she said like nobody care about me, because the scene is like she playing by herself, you know. So that's why we think, okay, she playing, you know, the scene by herself, and then the boy will come and talk to her. And I just only focusing directing the boy because like he's the main part of the shot, and we have a technical problem. We have to follow him. he has to run in a certain speed, you know. And so the thing that I totally didn't expect, that the little girl, our actress, she felt be abandoned, because like everybody only take care of, you know, the little boy, and nobody talked to her during that time, because like we think she enjoyed playing by herself. Like, so we had, you know, we had to come in, and I had to like sit down with her, talk to her, and you know, the son is like, they didn't wait for us, and like that's something that like we didn't expect. And then we said like, okay, and I had to tell her like, no, please, like let's do this, and I, you know, I will like go out with you tonight, we can play Pokemon together. And then, you know, she feel happy, and I said like, no, nobody abandoned you, like we care about you, but this is the scene you're playing by yourself, so you have to enjoy it. You're a good actress, you have to do it, you know. Luckily we got, you know, the shot we want, you know, in the right time. But that's something that like, you know, is with is my learning experience, you know. When you work with children, you always have to care about them, even they are not in the scene, but you know, you always have to make them feel happy, be friend with them, hang out with them, you know. So yeah, that's like a little behind the scene for that scene.
Thank you so much, all. That was, I'm glad she felt better by the end. I have one more question before I want to give the audience an opportunity to be able to ask you their own questions, because they do have a lot.
Okay, yes.
But so film is the ultimate art, right? Collaborative art. There's hundreds of people that are involved in making a film. So one of the questions that we had, and an audience member, a participant had, is how do you, from the actors and the little girl and the casting to choosing your team, right? The people who you're going to collaborate with, your producer and your DP. What is your process, and how do you choose a great team for your project, for this project? How did you know these are the people that I wanted to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's like finding someone who works with you is like dating, you know. You don't know why you love them, you just know that you love them. So
Oh, I think we had a connection.
lucky. Oh yeah, is it good?
Yep, you're good now.
Okay, sorry. So so for me, I really like to work with people that I used to work before. I know them. So for this movie, my DP and my editor, I work with them for my first movie, and I can feel like I can share a lot of things with them. Even before we start, even before I have the script, I start talking to them about my idea, how I want to do this movie, you know, how I, and then we have a lot of conversation. We talk, we hang out, we talk about the movie even before we start the project. Um, and also for the actors, a lot of thing is what the word trực giác is like, you know, uh, you feel it's right, then it's right. It's very hard to explain. It's like, you know, I say it's like love, right? You know, when you know it's right, then it's right. Uh, like I have to cast a lot of like actors to play for the main role, uh, which I think we spent about like 2 months of finding, and I want to find a new face. But then in the end, when I see a lot of actors, nobody makes me feel that they are the right person. So I asked my Mule, who I work with from my previous movie, to come for the casting, for the audition. So she came in, and I gave her, you know, the sign, and I showed this the sign. So we did the same process as everybody else. But then when she walked in, like she did the scene, and I say, okay, she's the right one, you know, she's perfect for this one. A lot of people complain, but like for me, she's the only choice that I think she's the best actress to play this character in for this movie. Same with the main actor. So like most of people think he's fit with the sidekick character, because like, you know, like in real life he's very funny, he's talkative. And this movie, his character is not really talkative. Meanwhile, the actor who played the sidekick, like, you know, everybody think he's like perfect for the main role. But then when I like talk to them and I say, okay, it's so easy to guess. If I did that, it's so easy for everybody to guess. Okay, they will play. It's very stereotype. So I asked them to switch the role, and turn out that for me, I think they did a really good job. You know, so my process is I want to work with the people like, you know, I know, and also I know their potential, I know their talent, and I can trust them, so I can challenge them to do something bigger, you know, stronger. uh, and if I work with a new person, it takes time, for me to get to know them, but as long as we can connect, we can share, we can trust each other, then, you know, I love to work with them again and again. So that's how I collaborate, and I love to listen to you know, my partner. Like when I throw out an idea, I also want them to, you know, give me a feedback, give me something else. uh, there are, you know, different type of director. Some director, you know, they have the movie in their head already, and they just want everybody to do the exact things that they think about that movie. I'm kind of different. I love to have a collaboration between the creative people in the team. Give me ideas, you know, we listen, and then we brainstorm together, we discuss together, and then I will decide which the best for the movie. So yeah, so that's how I work with my team.
I love how you really brought this concept of relationship and trust into filmmaking, because it's not just a singular vision, but it's the relationship that you build with all of your collaborators, and that relationship is built on trust. So the trust that you have to know that they're going to help execute the vision, but then they're also going to help make it better by contributing ideas. And that is like dating, right? You hope that the person that you feel good, you match with, you have an intuition with, is going to help make you better in the end. So thank you so much for giving us such insight and the special opportunity to see behind the scenes of Cô Gái Đến Từ Hôm Qua. I want to give the audience a chance to ask questions. So everyone, if you have a question to ask, I know some of you had messaged me earlier, but now is your chance to speak and ask Linh directly. So go ahead and please raise your hand on the chat function. So go to participants, and right on, there's 3 buttons that say invite, mute, or raise hand. So if you want to raise your hand, I will call you and we can unmute so that you can have an opportunity to ask Linh directly some of your questions. If you don't know how to do that, you can also just wave at me and I will call on you. All right, let's see. Let me do speak gallery view so I can see if anybody is raising their hand. While we wait, we have a shy group, but really you have an opportunity. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to ask the filmmaker himself. But while we're waiting for people to ask, or if anybody's just waving their hand. Yes, I see AJ raising your hand. I'm gonna ask you to unmute, and then after that I will ask Đức.
Okay, it looks like I'm unmuted. You mentioned before that you worked with the director on your previous or your first film, and now you've gone on to work on this one with him again. I imagine you'll probably end up working with this particular DP on future films. But like, how did you first meet that DP? And I mean, how did you get to the point where you are now, where you're in this kind of like real like level of like trust? Has it been through the movie making process, or do you go out on weekends and like hang out all the time? Like, what's the relationship there?
Okay, thank you for your questions. So my DP, I used to know him for a while as a friend because, you know, so before I become a filmmaker, I work as, I do a lot of other things. You know, I am a film critic, and then I also do behind the scene. I hang out with, you know, like film crew. So my DP, Vinh, he's very talented DP, very young. He's like 1 year younger than me. And so we know each other, we talk, but we never really work together. So when I'm doing my first movie, where I'm thinking like who I'm gonna ask to DP for my film, my producer, who is also a very good friend, me, and he's also worked with Vinh before. So he said, let's work with, you know, this DP, you know. So actually at first, it's like, I don't know. So I study in America. I come back to Vietnam. So I don't really know many people in Vietnam. So I say, okay, you know, I don't really have different choice. Actually, at that moment, I was thinking that I will ask one of my friends from USC, you know, to come to Vietnam and have me on DP in my first feature. But because, you know, the budget for the salary for DP in Vietnam are very low. Like, you know, the budget for the movie in Vietnam very low. So there's no way we can, you know, afford that. So I say, okay, let's go and talk to Vinh. So we sit down, you know, we hang out, we talk about the movie, and at first, like, you know, it's just like working relationship first. But I remember when we go for location scout, the first day, there's one location. I have this idea, and I try to explain to him what I want to do, and he tried to explain to me why it doesn't work. And then I say, no, it's gonna work. Like, you don't know this better than me. And he say, no, I have more experience than you, because actually he filmed so many movies before me. You know, he has like, he DP for so many movies. This is my first feature film. And I'm really upset. And I said like, no, this is my movie. You are my DP. And then, you know, we have a big agreement from the very first location scout. You know, the movie even haven't started yet. And then we get into the car, we move on to the next location. And then, you know, like after that, I heard like people in the crew say, oh, this movie gonna be a mess, because, you know, when the DP and the director get into a big fight, it's not a good sign for movies. So at night, I send him a message. I say, hey, you know, sorry, I really like yell at you early today. And he sent me a message say, yeah, I'm sorry, I should not do that. I want to go out and grab a drink. So we went out, and, you know, I explained to him like, you know, I am a person that not very good at control my anger. And I really surprised that he's also very similar. Like, I think because like we hang out before, we never really work together, so I don't know that like he easily get anger, and me too, you know. So we have a deal like, okay, it's very bad. So later, if one of us get mad first, then the other person should step back and then wait until the other person, relax, and then we can talk. And so from that moment, uh, we always work with that trust. It's like, okay, we don't want to yell at each other in front of the crew or anyone. We should talk more. We should share how we feel before. Like like my after the first movie, and then luckily it's a big success. I'm doing my second film. I talked to him like, hey, let's do this movie, and he said he really liked that book, and I say, cool. So that's how I build that relationship, and we hang out a lot. Like we hang out together, and then we become friends. We talk about movies we like. We talk about ideas we like. What even like there's ideas that I don't know when will I make that into movies. I share with him and say, in the future, I want to do this movie with you and this and that. So we work together for 3 movies already. Only the movie that I'm working right now, I didn't work with him because after 3 movies, I feel like I haven't married yet, but I feel like it's like a marriage relationship. When you know someone so well that like you don't like when I work with him, I don't even need to say anything like on set. He a lot of people say, oh, why he run the set, not me, because like we talk about everything at home. So be on set, I just focusing on my thing, he focusing on his work, like that, like something that I don't need to say, and he already know what I want. But sometimes for me, I think that we do the same thing again and again. So that's why for my recent movie, I want to work with like a different DP to see if I can find something different. I can work with someone else. It's like when you
Date around.
Yes. It's a heartbroken, thing. Like there's a movie I really like, and I know he really love it. But also at the same time, I want to try something new, and sometimes it's like this is how I feel. Like maybe like after I work with someone else, then when I work with him again, we can also be better. It's like I will learn something from my new DP, and then maybe it helped, to improve like what me and my DP, my favorite DP, don't see, because like we are so on the same page, but sometimes for creative, you have to be different. So that's how I feel. But that's how I build my relationship with my DP.
Wow, thank you so much. I like committing, but then also seeing what else is out there. Next we have Đức, who wants to ask a question. So Đức ơi, I'm going to unmute. Oh, hello, Đức. Oh, that okay.
Yeah.
Đức, let us ask you. Let us wait for the. Next we have Khánh Tâm. I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay. So I have a question. We usually like have a separation between maybe some kind of art house and independent movies. with industry and commercial movies. So I want to ask Anh Linh is that how was your experience with these kinds of separation, and do you have any idea of how can we merge them together, or it should be there should be a separation in that way?
Okay, thank you, em. Good question. For me, I think the separation between art house movie and commercial movie is more like a job for film critics and maybe producers. Uh, Me as the film director, I I don't really look at my film as an art house or commercial. I look at my film as a film. This is the film I want to do. Uh, but of course, you know, when you talk to the producer, you have some producer will want or investor. You know, when you make a movie, you need money, and sometimes when you have categorize your film into some you know, different category or genre, like, you know, you want to make comedy, horror, thriller, action, or art house. It's just how it's the way you want to sell to your producer or your investor to get the money so you can make the movie you want, you know. uh, I'm personally, I don't look at movie uh, as a filmmaker. I don't look at movie at that way. I think for me, it's really more like a job of a film critic. Say, oh, this is an art house movie, or like that movie is more commercial. Um, I look at movies at how the skill of storytelling of, you know, different directors. What is their style? What is their storytelling style? You know, like for example, in Vietnam, especially in Vietnam, uh, we have people. We don't have many directors have their style of storytelling. So everything just become one big category, like commercial movie or indie film or like a house movie. But I think as if you are a filmmaker, I don't know, are you a filmmaker?
I'm still a student.
Okay, you're a student, but you want to make movie. I think like if you want to make movie, don't really think about like if your movie become an art house movie or a commercial movie. Just think about the movie you want to make first, and then those things will come later. The producer you going to work with will decide that for you. And then if they say, okay, your movie is show art house, we don't want to spend money for you, and then it go back to you. It's up to you. Do you still want to make the movie you want, or you want to make the movie that they want? You know. And for me, it's not a bad thing either way. It's just how you feel. If you're comfortable with that, if you enjoy doing that, that's more important. Uh, like, you know, for my three movies, I want to make feel good movies. People can say it's a commercial movie, it's fine, you know. But what I want to do is like feel good movie. The movie I'm doing right now, some people say, oh, is it an art house movie or is it a commercial movie? I say, I don't know. You know, I just want to make a movie about life of, you know, one of the most famous composer in Vietnam, and you can call it either way. But the, you know, the story is make me feel something, and I want the audience feel something about it, and that matter to me more. You know, the theme of the movie, the message of the movie is more important than if it's an art house movie or it's a commercial movie.
Great, thank you. I'm gonna ask you Đức Trung's question, and then we'll take one more question after that, and then we have to end because this, again, we could talk for hours. But Đức Trung's question is, when do you decide when to move the camera, or when do you decide to do a still shot? How do you decide that?
Oh well, it's up. It depends on what you want to tell in the story, what you want to tell in the shot. You have to understand what is your movie really about. You have to understand what this scene really about and what is this shot really about. Then, based on that, you will decide what's the frame for this scene, how you move the camera, like why you want to move the camera. You know, there's ton of reason you move the camera, or there's tons of reason that you have the camera static. Uh, it depends on how you want the audience feel or how you want to tell the story, uh, based on those things. So it's very important to do the breakdown on your script, like why you want to do this, like why the character has to move from this to that, why. So not just only the camera, every single thing in the movie have to have a reason, and you always ask like what is it really about, then you will have the right decision.
Thank you. We have time for just one more question. I know that everybody wants to ask questions, but we go.
Hello everyone. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I'm so sorry because my English is not good enough to communicate.
Speak Vietnamese.
Con chào chú Nhật Linh ạ. Là tại vì con còn trẻ, con mới sinh năm 98 mà. Con rất là thích cái VFX của bộ phim Cô gái đến từ hôm qua, cho nên là con muốn hỏi về cái VFX đó là do một team ở Việt Nam làm hay là team ở nước ngoài làm. Dạ, chỉ vậy thôi.
I can translate really quickly. He said hello chú, which means hello uncle, and then we all laughed because he's very young and Nhật Linh is still very young. But the question is, he loved the VFX and was asking which VFX special effects house was it done in Vietnam or international?
The VFX team that working on the girl from yesterday is a Vietnamese company. It's called Backplay. It's play the word. It's like 3D play. So like play. So but it's found by Vietnamese French artist Thierry. I met him like a couple of years ago, and then and he just moved back to Vietnam. He wants to open a VFX company in Vietnam. Even though his company, he worked for a lot of big Hollywood movies before, but he wants to contribute his talent to Vietnam film industry. So actually, my first 3 movies, we work with them, like Em là bà nội của anh, Cô gái đến từ hôm qua, and Tràng Tí. And then for Tràng Tí, my third movie is gonna be in theater in this next New Year. We have a lot of visual effects, and I'm so happy with them. This is like the movie. I think that's one of the movie has that much visual effect, and it's very interesting. And Backplay, they're doing a very good job with the movie, bring the fantasy world to life, and I enjoy do have like creative process with Thierry during the girl from yesterday and Trang Thi too. So I think that's something I really love to work with local people like Vietnam team. So we can grow up together to build the film industry, the local film industry.
Dạ, con muốn kể một kỷ niệm đó là về cái phim của cô gái đến từ hôm qua, là cái năm mà cái phim đang quay đó, là con có coi phim Tấm Cám ngoài rạp Đà Nẵng, thì vô tình là gặp anh Ngô Kiến Huy với lại chị Hoàng Yến Chi Bi đi coi Tấm Cám luôn, cho nên là đó là một cái kỷ niệm rất là vui về bộ phim. Và cái lúc mà xem cô gái từ hôm qua xong thì bạn con thì nó lại chê những cái phần VFX, những cái phần mà nó nói là làm lố lên, cho nên là khi mà con coi thì con nói ủa, nó rất là đẹp mà tại sao là người ta lại chê. Mà sau khi nghe hồi nãy chú có chia sẻ về những cái hình tượng như là con chim hoặc là con ong thì con thấy rất thú vị, nên là chắc con sẽ coi lại phim một lần nữa. Cảm ơn chú.
Cảm ơn.
So quickly, Wing Ngọc just shared a brief story about when he watched the film for the first time, and just really enjoying the animation and the bees. And now he says he's going to go and watch one more time to pay more attention. Okay, we have many more questions, but unfortunately, it's already 9 o'clock and we've kept you for a whole banquet of film. So again, Linh ơi, I just want to say thank you so much one more time for giving us your time. I know that you're on location right now, so thank you for calling us from a cafe and giving us a really in-depth and like special behind-the-scenes look into Cô Gái Đến Từ Hôm Qua. So thank you so much, and I'll pass it back on to Samuel.
Thank you again to Director Phan Linh. Thank you to UNESCO, the organizers. Thank you to the Roundtable directors from Min, Marty, Digo, Yuki, Siew Hua. Thank you again to my co-host, Aivung, the government of Japan as well for the support. And a big, big thank you to our School of Slow Media team, Rafa and Akira, who many of you know, who are behind the scenes today. Also Zhang from UNESCO. And so many other people, but thank you all for being with us, for enjoying this banquet with us. We know some of you by name, some of you we don't. I hope we get to spend time with you in person in any of these cities where we run programs, whether it's in Vietnam or Cambodia, the Philippines, Bangladesh, or Japan. So thank you again for being with us. We're going to be sending a survey out to you soon, so please respond to that. Catch up with updates on schoolsocialmedia.com and on our social media links, which Rafa will be sharing in the chat. And before, I know people are leaving, oh, not that many, but we like to do something before leaving that's important to us, which is, I'm gonna count to 3. And when I say 3, I would like all of you to show your video and unmute yourself and say goodbye. So when I say 1, 2, 3, we're all going to unmute ourselves and say goodbye at the same time. Is everybody ready? We've had such a beautiful time together.
Say goodbye in English or Vietnamese or whatever language.
1, 2, 3, unmute.
Goodbye.
Xin chào. Bye. Xin chào.
Goodbye.
Ôi rồi quên rồi.